Hey everybody, welcome back to Ravenstead. It's time for another build. Need a little bit of scatter terrain real quick for a game this weekend. I'm still playing Curse of Strahd, and we're going to be visiting the Martikov's vineyard. So I wanted some pasture fencing. Got a little piece of foam here. I'll make some bases for my fence line. I'm just using a hot wire cutter to get the basic shapes, and then I'll use a craft knife to kind of sculpt everything down. Don't worry, I don't burn myself with the wire cutter or cut myself with the craft knife, so just enjoy the video. I decided to make them a little thinner too. That half-inch foam was just a little too thick, stood a little bit too far off the table. So I'll get those carved down the way I want them. I'm going to draw out a line here where I want the fence line to go. And then eventually I'll space out the fence posts. This will be a post and rail style fence. And I'll space those posts out about an inch apart. So once I get this carved down the way I like it, get rid of all those factory surfaces, I'll just texture the edges here with a wire brush. Kind of gives it a little bit of a striated, rocky look. And then go over the surface with a balled up piece of aluminum foil. That'll give a little texture, gets rid of any of the knife marks or whatever on the foam. I'm using a little bit of mountain laurel to make the posts. I'm going to split those down. So I just set the blade right there on the end grain and give it a little tap. And usually it'll split. The shorter pieces are easier to split. They usually follow the grain pretty well. And then the rail part of the fence, that's a little bit harder to split. Just take my time, cut those down. So I'll process up all the lumber that I need for this project, all the fence posts and all the rails there. You can see them piled up. And then I'm just using my grid map here to lay out where I want the posts to go. I'll make a little pilot hole in there and then start hot gluing those fence posts in. I like a lot of my builds, you know, that hot glue just kind of squirts out around the base, and you know, you get globs of it here and there, but don't worry about it, because you know, we can always hide those things with a little bit of foliage or a little bit of flocking on there. So mistakes aren't the end of the world. Just keep going. And I imagine these rails being nailed onto the posts. I don't think we'll get down quite to that detail. Nails or trunnels put in there to hold them on. The implication is there. So I've got one piece with a gate in it, and then this one I just wanted to bypass the rails to make a solid piece. And then it just needed a little bit more interest, and we definitely needed our rotten plank in here. That's kind of an ongoing theme in a lot of my builds. Gotta have that rotten plank. There we go. Little place for the birds to perch right there on top. Now we're gonna black bomb this out with some Mod Podge and black latex paint or acrylic paint. Get that all painted up. And that'll serve as our base coat. Gives us a good shadow for our dry brushing. Here I'm just dry brushing on some medium brown on the wooden parts, and then this color is called cinnamon, but it's just kind of a light orange brown, and that'll give us some more highlights. And then I'll dry brush the base. I'm going to end up flocking this to give it more of a grassy look, but I just like to have all those undertones present. Even if I end up covering them up, they'll peek out here and there. And then that's, so first some light gray, and then this is a light beige color. I'll go over the wood with that as well, and that gives it a nice weathered oak look, oxidized. You know, if you look at wooden structures that have been outside, they usually turn gray unless they're treated with something like stain or oil. And then here I'm gonna put some washes on the piece. This is burnt umber, acrylic ink, and water mixed about 50-50, so it really flows on pretty thinly. And that's going to go over everything. messy. That's okay. And then some green wash. That's bright green acrylic paint and water mixed together. Again, about 50-50. Pretty runny. Gives us a nice mossy, grassy look. Good green undertones. When I put the flocking on over top, that'll kind of help it kind of blend in. Oh yeah, got to get that rotten plank prepared. Oh, that's so cool. I love doing this part. And I do this technique, I put my washes on wet, so it's always wet from start to finish, so the colors kind of blend in. And there you can see it dried out. You could go with the piece just like that. You wouldn't have to flock it if you didn't want to. But I'm going to put a little bit of PVA glue here and there up on the wood some where I want it to look mossy and kind of rotten. And then sprinkle on some fine flocking. And then shake off the excess. And that gives us our grassy areas. So you can still see, like here and there, that kind of rocky undersurface or clay undersurface showing through. So it's good to, you know, kind of paint and prepare and put washes on, even if you're going to cover something up. It ends up kind of playing later on. Now here I'm just using some medium flocking and some watered down PVA glue just to give a little different texture. I went ahead and sped this up. I tend to kind of fuss and fiddle with this stuff a lot, so I didn't want to bore you. There we go. It's like watching grass grow, right? And I'm going to put some clumps of grass. I make these with a static grass applicator I got from Woodland Scenics. I just put a dab of glue on a piece of wax paper and then use that applicator to put the grass on. I got some little flowers. This is still the grass clumps, and then I just spray them with clear adhesive and dip it in flower flocking to make those clumps of flowers. A little splash of color there. Just put bushes and clumps of foliage here and there wherever we need. I try not to get too carried away with these. A lot of my terrain I try and make playable, so you could actually put a miniature up on the terrain. Well, this one's so narrow that you know, I didn't worry about playable surfaces. Last little bush here, and then I'll give you guys a look. Let me spin this piece for you. There it is, the pasture fence, and that's going to be part of my Curse of Strahd campaign. My adventurers are going to the Martikov vineyard to investigate some trouble there. So this will add a little interest into any encounters that they might have on the vineyard. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear from you. Any suggestions for builds, I always appreciate that. I keep a notebook with ideas so we can keep these videos coming. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll see you on the next video.